Hey everyone, and welcome to An Eventful Life with Brad Cox and Shane Buzzer. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane.
An Eventful Life is the podcast where we take you on a journey through eventful lives of inspirational event leaders from around the world.
That's right, Brad. We'll be sharing their stories, impact, and insight into the complex world of events. So if you like these stories, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your mates.
This is An Eventful Life. Buzz, how are you today, mate?
I'm good, Brad. How you doing?
Yeah, all right. What did you get up to on the weekend, mate?
Well, we had a couple of days extra, which was nice. Very little, actually. It's all about what's about to come. And yourself?
Mate, I went to the footy and saw your team outdo my team again. So, yeah, I'm tail between my legs. But my young fella actually played on the middle of the ground at halftime. So that was my little buzz for the day.
My team did. Well, they did okay. It was good.
Oh, yeah, they're going all right. So, no worries. Hey, today's guest is all about perseverance, entrepreneurship, dedication, passion, and production. Arosh Fernando started Woohah Productions when he was 16 years old, and for the last 21 years has built his business to become one of the leading technical production companies servicing a wide range of the event industry and concert industry. He has innovated over time, spread the service offering, grown, changed, and adapted to an evolving industry, but has stayed true to his beliefs and core skills. His innovation and passion has seen him win countless awards, including Entrepreneurs Organisation Bravery in Business Award. His easygoing focus and dedication to his craft. It's a pleasure to welcome Arosh Fernando. Welcome, mate.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for having me on here. I am excited to share the journey, the crazy stories, and
Nice one. Now, did I get any of those stats wrong? Was 16 right? When did you kick it off in
16.
school?
People always ask what Woohah actually is. Don't ever let a 16-year-old decide what your business name is going to be. Even to this day, I'm like thinking, is that corporately correct? And now I've given up.
I was going to say, it's been long enough now, right? You just roll with it.
It's actually a Busta Rhymes song.
Ah, is that where it came from?
That's where it came from.
There you go.
I love that.
Right.
That's so
Fanboy?
This is
Wait, what year?
It
So 21
wasn't.
years
It was
ago.
just.
Okay.
It was the year. I think we started the business in 2001, but realistically, the name came when Yahoo, Google, these one word kind of had a meaning, kind of side to it. So I was like, Woohah. No one's going to know what that is, and we can do whatever we want. So
I love that. That's so
that's
good.
how it all started. And I was a Subway sandwich artist from the age of 14. Had $3,000 saved up. And I was a crazy kid who was actually meant to study aerospace engineering. My great mom, my Sri Lankan mom is very proud to see me go back to uni, which I haven't done yet. I quit. I finished school, but I basically quit my job at Subway, had the $3,000, and here we are. It was meant to be a fun little DJ business when it started.
So was that the initial purpose? Was it production focused, or was it literally I'm just going to be a DJ and service my needs? How did it all come?
Play Busta Rhymes songs.
Yeah.
Sample it in. No, it was my passion for music. Loved music from a very young age. Couldn't sing, couldn't dance. Try to dance, but no good at it. But
Join the club.
and then was like, well, how can I get involved in some way? And when I was about 12 years old, growing up I was in a charismatic church. So, someone said, oh, do you want to learn what all these buttons are? And I was like, hells yeah. Which 12-year-old kid who's going to get free lessons on what all these buttons can do was going to say no to that. So that's how my actual knowledge started. So I had a very good mentor who was very hard on me. Every weekend I would learn stuff, train my ear up from a very young age. And that's where my technical skills came into play.
Yeah, right. Did you always want to start your own business when you were young, or where did that desire come from?
I am very entrepreneurial. I've discovered as I've kind of got to know myself a bit more. My first business idea actually came when I was 6 years old, when I had a holographic ruler, and I decided to kind of, rather than showing it to people, I started charging money for this special time during the recess.
So you're a hustler. That's what you were.
I am the true hustler. So it was 50 cents, and then I would use the proceeds at lunchtime to go and actually buy really good food at the canteen.
Perfect.
So what a great 6-year-old. So, I'm trying to now kind of get my kids to do the same.
You
But
get along very well with my dad. He got kicked out of 2 schools for stealing exam papers and selling them. So
Well, I almost got kicked out for stealing other people's money. I'm like, no, it was a business idea. They wanted to see my ruler,
They gave
my
it to me.
magic ruler.
there you go. Have you always been very innovative in your approach to business and Woohah's development? Including your recent investment, both time, resource into the virtual software creation, the studio development, and how has Woohah developed over the years? And have you gone about identifying where to innovate the business?
I think when it comes to anything, doesn't matter what the type of business is, even if it's sending rockets to the moon, there's a human element, right? Which is really important. And sometimes people forget that. Like at the end of the day, our clients are humans. They've got a job that they've got to tick over. And innovation. Like I remember when I mortgaged my whole house to put all my money about 10 years ago, so in 2013, and we went into this thing called LED screens.
Yep.
Right? Everyone was like, wow. $500,000 investment. I was, I think, 27 years old. So very young and kind of take that. So my thing was always innovation. Always, even right now, I'm pushing the team to go, well, don't wait for another COVID. Innovate yourself. I'm reminded, I'm part of a global entrepreneurship organization, so I get to meet some great speakers. And I'm reminded by Alan Joyce, who's the CEO of Qantas. And, Alan came to Australia to disrupt the own business. So I think there was 3 or 5 of them that were bought in, and they kind of innovated what we now know as Jetstar. And that was meant to be, how can we take down Qantas? But here's a group of us actually working within Qantas to actually build something against Qantas. And that's what Jetstar was, which kind of helped them survive global, not the pandemic, but the financial crisis about 10 years ago when they had all the strikes and things like that. So innovation has to be every day. And I think you've got to keep innovating and keep pushing yourself, because if you're not, somebody else will.
Well, delayed flights is one thing that part of the innovation process some of our listeners might say. But anyway, I'll let you have that one.
Yeah.
Or the $700 Sydney to Melbourne fare.
Oh, yeah, don't talk about it. Just book one of those for next week. How have you innovated over your journey? And okay, you started as a little DJ pushing a few buttons and stuff, but to where you are now, what are some of the sort of milestone steps you have taken over that time to continually innovate?
Learning for me is really important. So surrounding myself with people that inspire me. I always like to be in a room where I'm kind of like the dumbest person, and I just like to absorb. So for me, that's really important, and that's what the Entrepreneurs Organization gives me, because as I mentioned to you, I never went to university to study anything in technical. I studied entrepreneurship, I think, for 12 months, and I part completed it. And as a good entrepreneur would do, they just drop out because they think they know better. And that's who I was. So again, I met some great people there that I still keep in touch with, some great mentors, like Janine Alice was one of them who came and gave her time to be able to get some free time from all the students. So yeah, innovation for me right now for myself is learning. It's reading. It's what other people are doing. I love to travel around the world. I think, in this small corner of the world that we call Australia or APAC region, we are so small compared to the US and what's happening in Europe and things like that. So going to other places, talking to other people just gives you so much more, almost energy for me to be able to go, how can we push what's happening elsewhere?
And Arosh, have some of these mentors of yours, I guess, who you obviously have generated solid trust with, have any of them ever given you advice that you were a bit weary of, or maybe didn't necessarily disagree with it, but have gone ahead with it anyway because you trust that person and it's proven to be a good call in the end?
Weirdly enough, one of the first things you learn when you're part of this organization is never to give advice, right? But to actually share experiences. Right? The two differences are basically when you give advice, I'm telling you what to do, versus when I talk about what's happened to me, how I've either overcome it, my emotional experiences, then I'm giving you the power to choose and share that with yourself, or take it on or not to, so that then the power becomes yours. So we've learned that as one of the key traits. So we're never allowed to say, hey Brad, or hey Shane, you should be doing this, because you might be like, well, what the hell would you know about my freaking business or my career or my events? Because the whole point is there's no events people within my group of 8 people that I hang out with once a month at all. right? So they're all in different fields.
Yep.
But we all have, if you think about business and if you think about the companies we all run, we all have the same challenges, the same problems, etc.
What's one story that someone has shared with you that you've been able to apply to yourself and to your business through that?
Well, lots, I guess. One thing was they were probably my saving grace. They were my inner family. I call them my business family. When COVID happened and when all of us were kind of like, what the hell do we do? I had, 8 people that I could share experiences with, and they were just like, well, here's a list of things you've got to start with, do this, do that, do this, and that enabled me to kind of go, okay, cool. I actually have a start point. And that's really important, right?
Were they similar starting points out of interest in terms of, from different fields and different industries? Did you find yourselves, okay, we're all in the same situation, but was everyone focused and thinking about it in a similar way, or was it very different?
No, it was really weird for them looking at someone who was in events, and I knew the wave was coming from about February because I kind of predicted it. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, I'm like, this is what I'm seeing, guys, and for them, it was almost seeing me and what was happening within our industry almost as an eye opener for them because they were so much later down the track. Right. Yeah. So, but there are so many other experiences, whether that's, not just business, but also personal stuff where I'm able to be like, well, I'm feeling lonely at the top. Right. Which is a real thing for a lot of owners and, I guess even people who are running smaller agencies and things like that.
Yeah, totally. So Woohah sort of developed again over the time and stuff from those DJs. How would you describe what you guys do now day to day? What is Woohah Productions? What does it evolve to look like as of today?
We try to be a leading event technology business. Mm-hmm. That's what we are. And that doesn't just mean that we hire out equipment. A lot of people go, oh, you're just another AV company. But we're trying to spread our wings wider than what we have in a traditional AV business sense. I've got, coders and developers now because of COVID. We build the platforms and things like that. We did a lot of programming, and we even now still building a lot of software, microsites and things like that. Weirdly enough, like, COVID's finished, everyone's back to face and everything like that. But we are busy. The guys who do the software developing side is still busier than ever. Can
you tell us something that you are working on that might hasn't yet been released or you're close to?
Yeah, absolutely. It's about giving us, I guess for events, it's always been, we find that different people or different agencies doing different things, especially when the time comes towards that end, pinnacle, opening time or opening date or, event date. That's the hardest, right? So waiting for somebody to make a small edit on the graphics package, that might take them another 24 hours. If we can do it in-house, we can have that through our server system at the, into the computer that's about to play it, so little things like that. So what are some of the things that we're working on? We have built software that we've kind of had during COVID for virtual events into a ticketing platform. So we help companies, with ticketing. So you can register your event, register your guest on there, you come QR code, then they're able to print their badge out at the event. And that's one of the services that they want. I've learned very quickly there are certain things you don't want to do. Yeah. That's called money and ticketing money. Tried it during COVID and I was like, oh no, hell no.
Really?
You do not, the amount of legal paperwork you got to go through to hold that kind of money because you become a trust account and that has to be then audited and, et cetera. So what we now do is tell our clients, you can have a ticketing, like we can build the ticketing side to it.
Yep.
You handle the money by using your own Stripe account and things like that. We take away that pain point for us.
Yep. Interesting. So, and it's a fascinating topic because we've seen many technical production companies try to expand their service offerings into creative services in particular, content developers, even design, some of them even going to producing and event management and those kind of areas. I believe a number of these companies have not really understood what they're offering and haven't resourced them accordingly, and the skills haven't really worked and it hasn't interwoven well with their technical production elements. They've tried to be a technical company and then turn into one-stop shop for events rather than sticking to their true lane. I would say you're different, and I'm interested to know, why you think you've been successful in that area and are a bit of an exception to that rule. How have you made, Woohah such a leader in the creative space and the content space and this software space, and been able to master that when so many others haven't and failed in that process?
One of my biggest mottos that I keep true to myself is called fail fast, right? Failing fast for me means try something. If it doesn't work, shut it down, move on, right? So, if I take the COVID story for us, which, everyone was like, whoa, look at these guys, they're so successful. But the reality was there was probably 4 or 5 things that we did well at, right? But there was about 10 to 12 things that we failed at, right? But we failed fast. So
you just nipped him in the bud quick and said, all
it
right,
was like,
that didn't
cool,
work. Yeah.
it didn't work. It's okay. Loss. I'm so sorry. Let's move on.
Can you give us an example of one of
Well,
those?
I think I was explaining about the ticketing thing, right?
Yep.
We didn't want to handle money. It was too legally challenging. We had to go into a different sphere. We weren't ticket tech. We weren't, any of those kind of big juggernauts, and we weren't ever going to be that. And that was, you got to kind of stick to your core as well. Like I always say, what's your purpose, right? Why are you actually trying to take on, if you're going to go, sideways or rather than vertical, why are you actually doing that? What's your real purpose? Is it just to grab more of the money bag, that your client, has? Or is it actually genuinely to serve a real purpose? And I think finding someone who can own it, meaning that's passionate about it. So we had someone by the name of Antonio Cafasso who joined our business. Now he comes from a creative broadcast. So content creation and broadcast was his background. And I brought him into the business because I wanted to be able to tell the story on camera during COVID time, because everything was through a lens rather than what you see in person on a stage. And then what he brought a skill set was he was so passionate about good creative content. Like people would be like, here's a PowerPoint. He's like, let's not have a PowerPoint. Or let's make the PowerPoint into a way that it doesn't just feel like another PowerPoint, and little things like that. So you got to have, I always say to people, don't just do something for the sake of money.
So that example you gave, one of my main mantras and ethoses as a business owner and being in the events industry is the guest experience. And I know that that's shared by a lot of people in the industry. That example you just gave, I was listening to that thinking that's what it is. It comes back to the guest experience. So that the digital, I guess, angle that you were coming at, how did that need to be fluffed up? You know what I mean? How did it need to be produced in a way that maintained that guest experience? Because let's be honest, how bloody hard was it to keep people's attention and recreate that guest experience? So what did you guys do to try and or do your best in that space?
You are 100% right there, Shane. And it was a guest experience and a speaker experience during virtual, right? So someone was in a studio, someone was working off their laptop. So that's what I call the speaker experience. How did they look on the screen? And then the guest experience was all the platforms that, ours was one. There was, at least a half a dozen or a dozen out there that people have used. We've all gotten used to Zoom calls and things like that, right? So those two were very different. And I learned very quickly, I think by June of that year of 2020, that those were two different experiences.
You got a small window. You only got a small window.
Things were changing weekly.
Yeah.
Right. And I always say, be nimble. We're in a very fast moving environment, especially in events. You want to be the next cool thing, but you've got to be able to be nimble to move around. Even now, right? Like the environment's changing. Everyone's talking about doom and gloom. We're not seeing it just yet, but eventually that might come. So you've got to be nimble to be able to go, well, where do we actually value add?
So the virtual platform that you guys built through that time in particular, you just mentioned, there's half a dozen, potentially more that are already in the marketplace. Why go and invest and build your own rather than necessarily license one that's already exists, that works well, that's potentially similar to even where you ended up with?
We had a lot of clients, high-end clients, that were wanting more custom creation. They wanted a white label, right? And they were like, this is our brand. This is how we want our brand to look. So when we wanted to look like that, we wanted to say our brand name and our look and feel. We don't want anyone's name on it. Everybody else's, you knew it was somebody else's. So I knew there was a very niche market. It was a hard market because what I didn't want to do was do 300 events in a week, because we just didn't have the staff, resources, even internet power at one stage.
Maybe interest even, let's be honest, to actually take that on. I mean, now the term virtual event makes me yawn immediately. So, keeping that interest level.
And I saw the trends very quickly. Like as soon as we came out of lockdown, it was face-to-face, go face-to-face.
Yep.
And if you go back to the humanness of all this, which is what we're doing, like events is connecting humans, right? I knew always that the virtual world was never going to stick because we want to interact, right? We don't come and say, oh, let's meet up on Zoom because that's great and have a drink over Zoom. You want to say, let's catch up. Let's go to the pub. Let's have a drink together or go to the footy,
Yeah. So where do you see the relevance of the virtual software in the industry moving forward? And do you think it has a lifespan of relevance even now?
I think it does. I think it gives that flexibility. People have talked about working from home and things like that. And, most companies are kind of, as much as we want to be face-to-face and that gets productivity up, the amount of time with traveling and things like that have increased when you kind of have to go back. So I think with a lot of the events that we are doing, we have seen, especially conferences, there is a virtual component in there, right? It's roughly about 15 to 20% of the market. I
would have thought more.
We have seen, again, we've seen a decline in that. We might see it pick back up, but, people want to get out. They do want to travel.
Sorry, I thought the percentage of virtual events now would have been predominantly conferences, or is that what you're saying?
Oh, sorry, yes. Sorry, in a conference, you'll have about 20% of people buying virtual tickets.
Sorry, apologies. Yeah.
No, it's all good.
Which is interesting in its own right. I mean, I always see it as you've got those that attend the live event, that face-to-face, the human interaction, and so forth, which I think is still a primary thing because you want to have a beer and you want to have a hug and
because remember, networking is part of the event experience, right?
But on the flip side, there is an element of people that can't attend the event. So I think the power in that virtual platform comes in the fact that you can provide the content and in some ways a bit of a teaser campaign to say, hey, here's a bit of content for you, but you missed out on the face-to-face stuff. But to give you a bit of an idea of what it was like, and it's the old FOMO, fear of missing out. So it's like, so next year, use it as a tool to be able to promote the event to then get to that virtual audience and say, you really should be here because you had a bit of a taster, but look at what else we did when you weren't here. So, and it can be used in that way as a marketing tool as well.
Absolutely, and it's grabbing 20% of that market, right? Otherwise, that would have missed out because they're going, well, I have a meeting or I have this, I can't attend, etc. So, absolutely.
So, as a production company, what are some of the misunderstood factors that you see working with, say, producers and event managers and event planners in what you do day to day, and how they can improve their production values of their events when working with you?
I'm going to listen to this answer very closely. I'm taking notes here. So.
We are not superhuman. We can't just make magic happen. We work within the laws of physics. We don't want to see a speaker. Okay. Do you want audio? Oh, of course. There's microphones. Okay, we need to have a speaker because, so little things like that. Timeframes, because there are things that need to happen on our end, especially now we're finding the engineering and the safety compliance such a huge, big deal. I was just today, I was like, someone wanted engineering done on a drape.
Yeah, but it depends where it is, like where it's actually being put up or...
Correct. But, so...
Sorry, the nerd in me is really going to come out here.
No, please bring it out. But so it's everything takes time and, it's some things aren't as easy as just, we want to make that happen. And that's what we try and do now with a lot of our, production managers is to get them to kind of work through an idea to make sure that we can bring the idea to life, but it's also realistic. Right.
And financially sustainable as well, because you talk about engineer elements to an event. Now, I'm educating my clients around the engineer requirements of an outdoor event, which I'm sure you're probably doing even more so because you're producing and delivering these documents. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Wind, safety, things flying off. Yeah, we were part of a show a couple of weeks ago where, it had to be called off because of, very high winds, and that's just part of life, because what you don't want is end up on the news headlines as the event that took out, the bad happened, Totally. So safety is a huge factor and things are getting bigger and bigger and really cool, but yeah.
And a lot of your work is, I mean, you've got two different fields in some ways. You've kind of got the pure event work, and then you've kind of got your concert work as well, and that music stuff. Is there a big difference you see in the services you provide between the two, and the way that the two somewhat industries, if you were to separate them, I think they're somewhat joined as well, but if you were to separate them, the way they operate?
Yes, this is something I really wanted to discuss, because in the business I try to kind of do 50-50. So it's 50% to the music festivals and things like that, and then the other 50% is corporate conferences, to expos and exhibitions. They're two different hats. One is all about system, process, get out as fast as you can. The other is all about make sure the little detail is perfect.
Yep.
Right? And that's the biggest difference. So yes, the gear can be shared, but the process is so different.
You know that there's an educational facility that actually teaches events in those two sectors. So it's divided and students are given the opportunity to learn one or the other. So that is becoming a tangible outcome, if you will, as far as the skill sets.
Yeah. And we just find that, people either gravitate to one or the other. But we've found the people that, I guess, a lot of the techs that work with us, they actually like the variety. One of the biggest things is it's like, wow, it's so weird. We're doing a concert over there, and then we're at a corporate event, and we're doing an exhibition. But getting those right takes that skill set. So for us, we have to tune in each little corner very carefully as well, because you want to get that right.
Yeah, absolutely. You've grown over time, recently opening in Sydney as well.
Yep.
You've also had a number of long-standing and loyal staff. You talk about your team and those staff members. As a business owner in an evolving industry and an employer of younger generations, such as all these Gen Z coming through now, how do you go about building a successful team and ensure that they are balanced in the work they're doing, the projects they're involved in, and keep them motivated day to day? Is it that variety? Do you have some other tools and things that you go about as a leader?
Culture is so big. So big. And
what does culture mean to you? Sorry to jump in. But what
absolutely.
does culture mean to you?
So culture is everything as an owner, I always say culture is like a pyramid, right? What happens at the top cascades down. I have to live and breathe the words I say. So if I say a lot of companies have their, purpose and, mission, values beautifully plastered on a poster, but I think it's about living it every day, If you say you care about your staff, then it's about having the flexible, we have parents in our business, we have, non-married people. So, they all need different, one person wants a holiday, the other person needs time with their kids, and you've got to actually live it and breathe it. And remember, we are all human. We are all human. So we have to treat everyone else like humans. And I always say...
Is that your job now, effectively? Just to manage those relationships and keep that culture that you refer to?
I'm very lucky that we have someone amazing, Kylie Blake, who runs our HR side of the business. She's the general manager, and she looks after a lot of that culture. Culture starts with me, because I know if I drop the ball on one side, I see it cascading through the business as well. What's important to me will become what's important to them. And I see there's a company out there that, they're all about perfection and the gear is perfect. And I love it because that comes from the top. That's a mission that was, instilled. So, and it doesn't matter what, we're technical, but in any facet of the events industry, I think the culture starts at the top. And if you have toxic culture, so if you've got someone just yelling at you and they're very much like your alpha, typical, we just yell at people. Yeah. People are going to take that on and, move away if they don't like it, because if that's not who they are. And I think that's a generation that we are now with, is they actually care about those little things, rather than just saying, I've got a wage or a job.
And it is a very different approach now. At the end of the day, we're in a people industry, a service-based industry, like you touched on before. It's everyone's got the equipment, and it's the people that make the difference in terms of the differentiator and the choice that the client might make as to, okay, why am I going with Woohah? Well, they're great people. They've got a great culture. Their service mentality and the way they go about it is different than, say, a competitor. So that's why I'm going over there, because I can get the same lighting fixtures, I can get the same stage equipment and stuff, but it's about having that relationship side of it as well. one of the fascinating things I think at the moment, particularly around Gen Z and that leadership and HR piece, is very much around the fact that it's not just coming to a job anymore. It's not 9 to 5. You are you're a mentor to them. You're a personal confidant. You've got to deal with, and it came through COVID as well, in terms of dealing with personal issues and the workplace and what that looks like today. Have you seen a lot of that start to evolve in your recruitment side of things with that new generation coming, going, hey, I need to be the counsellor here. I need to be the support network here. I need to be the family member, the friend, the person who has a drink. And how do you approach that at a business level in your recruitment?
One of my biggest mottos for the business is we're just a bunch of passionate people doing what we love. And I live and breathe that, because I say everyone at Woohah is handpicked to be there. No one just got a job because they were the only candidate. They were actually handpicked. So that piece is really important to me. How do we live it? Well, basically, it's just about being human. It's about being able to laugh. It's being able to joke. It's being able to go out for a beer on a Friday, or have a day where a tasty truck or something might come, or a food truck, might come and just, and we have a bit of a get together. I always say celebrate the wins.
Yep.
Right? We're in an industry that we're always running, right? Next gig, go. Celebrate the wins. So like during Easter time, work got a bit quiet. Let's go. Like, let's have a lunch. No reason. We're just going to celebrate, right? Because that's what life is about, right? And sometimes even as human, take away the industry that we're in, but as humans, we forget to celebrate.
Totally.
Right?
100%.
Because we're always on the go, always trying to work out what the next thing that we got to tick off.
Totally. And I think you come back to the point of, with the way that we've come out of COVID and everyone's sort of rush, short lead times, and it's gig by gig, showing you're a testament to this in terms of what you're doing day to day.
You can see me nodding at everything you're saying.
It's like how do we sit down? How do we celebrate the events? How do we actually, dedicate the time in the calendars at a company level to go, guys, we do need to stop. We've got to get together. We've got to have that beer and the handshake, just like we're expecting our clients to do at their conferences, but do it internally as well to build this culture, nurture our talent. Help them, support them, provide them the leadership and the growth and those really important factors that you're certainly a leader in the field of. And
one of the biggest things I find is you've got to share your vision, right? I call myself the bus driver, right? You've got to share the vision with your team, because if they don't know where they're going, right?
How do you do that? Because sorry, but that can be deemed as a bit of a wanky expression. But what does it actually mean? Share your vision. What does that mean to you?
I think at the size of the business that we are at the moment, you've got different levels, right? So you've got senior management, you've got the mid-tier techs and everything like that, to the amazing staff who do all the warehouse work, which none of the events would happen if it wasn't for those guys. So it's about kind of sharing that vision for that particular group, right? It's, hey, we know things aren't perfect right now. We know this place is small or trucks can't get in and out. So my vision in the next 3 years is that we have something that's triple the size.
Love it.
At a senior leadership level, telling people, I see you going here. Where do you see yourself? Having those honest conversations in a very informal way to make sure that you're actually following through. Promises have to be made, but also follow through, because otherwise you just become one of those people that say that you're going to do something.
That is such a good answer. And I'm sorry I used the term wanky term, but it can be. But the way you answered that was phenomenal. And I've only just met you today, but I can already see that you would build such a fantastic team underneath you by sharing those visions of, like, tangible visions of, okay, we want a bigger space. You deserve to be at a higher level here within this company. That helps, and that will motivate everyone.
And people are okay if you don't give them, people want everything, right? Like, I want this, I want that. Like, if I look at my, we want the bigger car, the bigger house, the, faster car, blah, blah, blah. But you've got to show them the vision and the path, and they'll buy into that. If you don't have buy-in, that's when you're going to have people who are going to be, not satisfied with their job. They're just coming for day to day, paycheck to paycheck.
Yep.
And they're gone because somebody else offered them more money. We don't have the highest. We don't just lure people in with money. And for me, money is a byproduct of a good product or a service.
Yeah. And it's belief in that vision. I think that's the critical point that everyone can have a vision. It's like, and every company sets out and they go, I've got a vision. Yeah. But if you don't have everybody that's on that train or on that bus, to your point, believing in that vision together, it will fall over, yeah?
I have a great story about that. We were doing One Republic about a month ago, right? It was a Melbourne show on Friday, Sydney show on Saturday. Overnight truck drive, 2 hours out of Sydney, truck broke down, had an accident, right? Driver was okay, but the truck was not able to be driven. We had everyone, and I in fact had one of our subcontractors call me up, and I thought he was about to yell at me. And he's like, "Oh my freaking gosh." I'm like, "I'm so sorry." I just started apologizing. I'm like, "So sorry." He goes, "No, you should be so freaking proud." I said, "For what? For the truck breaking down?" And he's like, "No, I've never seen a team come together, unite." He goes, "Some guy who was meant to be at the pub ended up at the gig to bump in when the truck came at 4:00. And, he goes, we had to get the doors ready by 6. The truck arrived, I think, at 4:30. And he goes, within 45 minutes, I had an army of people waiting to help, to do whatever we could to get the show up and going.
Wow.
Right? And the punters who came had no idea what had happened, 2 hours out. So we had to send a truck, hire another budget truck, send it out 2 hours drive, have 3 or 4 people in the middle of New South Wales,
Unload one truck.
unload to load ways. And then I just said, let's just do what we can, what's controllable, what's not controllable, and do it. And everyone just said, yes, we're happy to help. This is on a Saturday afternoon, So that's the kind of thing that you've got a strong culture, because people are happy to give, but you've got to also give back. That's important.
Wow, congrats, mate. That's awesome. Look, I could talk about this stuff for ages because
Yeah.
I love it. But let's get back to the technical production side of things a little bit. If you were to describe the key steps in the development and delivery, of a project from a technical standpoint, I'm thinking about all our producers and event managers that listen to this. How would you suggest a project be approached at a technical level? Time frames, considerations, stakeholders, key elements. What do you look for in terms of the way you structure your work?
And just can I add to that? It's an area that so many people just don't have any idea what it entails and how to read a brief or a quote or whatever it may be. So yeah, go back to the answer. And
for us, the biggest challenge is when we don't get information. People are
Yeah.
like, I want this. It's like, cool, tell me more about this that you want. The more information you can give us, and sorry, so we get hardly any information, and it's like, I want a quote. It's like, cool, I'll make it $1 million. And they're like, what? Well, no, I didn't want $1 million. I'm like, but I don't have the information. Give me information. Give me your ideas. Give me your, the wall of pictures that was your inspiration to get to this. Like, give me more details. The more details you can give a technical company, the more they can hone in on that quote.
do you not try to work with the client sometimes? And I say this as someone who unfortunately is the person calling going, shit, I'm sorry, I don't have time, but here's what I want. Can you figure it out? Maybe say, do you try to work with the client to maybe help them create that vision? Or?
We love to create.
Yeah.
One of my biggest things is, rather than just being a cookie cutter, we gave that piece of equipment, is to actually create, design. Like, I'm pushing my team. We're starting up something called Woohah Labs at the moment, where we're trying to innovate, cool things that we just don't get the time for because we're so busy, right? But that creation, the design is so important, but you've got to invest the time in it, right? And it's a collaborative. It's not just my ideas.
Took the word straight out of my mouth on collaboration there. I think that's the number one thing there. And to your point here, it's collaboration is what it's all about. So you go back to the clients, right, and the people providing the brief. It's like, we've got to lose this mentality, I think, of like, I'm going to hold the information and not share it. Like, we're all in it together.
Yeah.
It's a team approach, to what you do in your business, to expanding that team and that culture that you guys work in day to day out to your clients and to your third-party suppliers and your contractors and so on as it goes.
And what we're able to do, let's just say, you have an idea, Shane, right? You're like, look, I've got a couple of Instagram pictures and I found this on Google, bring that together. And what we can do is elevate that idea, right? And we can give you the realistic, hey, in the venue that you're in here in Melbourne or you're in Sydney or wherever you are in the country, you can't do that part, but you can do it this way, right? Or we've got to take that idea out, which is being realistic and without wasting any time.
And budget as well.
And budget, yeah. Hey, guys, just letting you know, that's Eurovision.
Yeah.
That is not possible. I know it looks amazing. Or
But
like
it's
when
not going to work for the staff office room, like, or whatever.
when the Olympics is on, the amount of Olympics, Commonwealth Games, we get snippets from the opening ceremony. I'm like, guys, would love to, but that's a, $10-20 million budget.
Yeah, and 18 months worth of work to get it there. So not in a bad way. I mean, we all love those projects
No,
if you
of
can get
course.
them, but it's just it's the
But it's
reality
about,
side, yeah?
for me, the elevation is getting that concept from there to tweaking it to what's real to you, what's real to your client, and what's real to your venue and budget.
And do you see that as one of the main values that you bring as a company, of a technical production company, I mean?
Yeah, what we love to do, especially with our corporate side, and that's coming out of COVID, what we were able to do. And I always say, I would rather lose a client or lose a job being truthful than just to take it on.
Promise something you can't deliver.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think that idea is going to work.
Yep.
I think, or share my experiences. Hey, I know you really want this idea, but my experience share is, spending that much of money on that little component, which is only for 5 minutes, when we
Where's
can
the
put
value?
that to somewhere else.
Yeah. And it's not about fire hosing ideas either. It's
No.
about adjusting the idea to be reasonable, that's relevant, and affordable, or whatever the parameters that have been put in place for that event. Yeah.
Remember, we're coming as a subject matter expert.
Mm.
We're doing this for, every day, every week. I think for us, we're doing average of 10 to 12 shows a week at the moment.
Yeah.
Right. So it's all about those. What are the lessons we've learned, so you don't have to make it.
Yep. And so if you're an event planner or producer and they've come to you and they've given you a good brief and you've gone through that collaboration process, what's next involved in the steps from you guys at your level?
It's about tweaking, quoting. The more details you can give, the tighter that quote will become, the more real that is.
And timeframes as well? Is that?
Yeah, timeframes are, I think COVID taught us something really bad, which is everything can be done like this, It's not a click finger, because we were so used to going in and out of lockdowns, people just became okay with, I'm having an event next week.
Yeah.
It's like, cool.
So let's take a scenario. Say someone comes to you at a corporate conference over a couple of days,
Yep.
In a ballroom, for example, there's 1,000 people attending. In your perfect world, what would be the time frame from brief to quote to then delivery of production? If you could pick a number and a time frame that works for you guys.
If it's something that we're starting from scratch where we're trying to put ideas together,
Yep.
you're probably talking about a month of massaging out what they want, what's real, what's feasible in the budget for the venue, etc. Then quoting should be done at the same time, roughly. And then it's about actually blocking out, what does that look like? What does your run sheet look like? Which is, so we just finished a huge conference called Sports Next. It was partnering with the Victorian State Government, Visit Victoria, and that was a 3-month lead time. So we started around early January when we got briefed on it, and then from the time it started and pretty much the month leading up was all about the event work, massaging out content pieces, run sheets, and all that.
Look very cool, by the way. Well done.
Thank you.
You can see that. Where do you see the value of technical production going in the future and the role that it will play in the industry?
Well, we're part of the storytelling, right? And visual is becoming more.
Yeah, so it's all visual.
Yeah.
And how is it looked upon? Look, it's, again, I use the word wanky a bit, but how will it look on people's socials as well? Because that is going to be the main forum that people will see this.
I invested in LED panel about a year or two ago, and it was the most expensive LED panel because it's what they used in what they call virtual production filming. So a lot of the movies are now shot against LED screen. So people didn't know the technical term, but there's a lot of stuff in the background, inside the panel that's electronics that were cool. So I just called it the Instagram screen. We have the Instagram LED screen because it actually looks good on a mobile phone camera.
Yeah, right.
Right. And that's what
important.
people care about.
Yeah.
Because if you look at brand activations, if you look at, at the F1 was a perfect example where people just want to see their brand up. They want you to then tell your people, your audience, your friends and family that you were there. So that's important. But that storytelling with visual is becoming more and more important. And I think we are going to see more and more of that.
Which is very much in the lines of that whole producer style role in particular. Do you see yourselves shifting into that world to do more storytelling and emotional experience and those sort of skill sets in some ways within the technical production elements?
At the moment, we love to work with event agencies, you know, producers who are actually thinking about these ideas, who are also then guiding a client in a certain direction, right? I think for us, our purpose is to be able to work with the agency, with the producer, to actually bring an idea to life.
At the brief time, really.
There's so much time invested. So much time invested. And I don't, one of the biggest things is I don't think people value that, especially the end clients don't value what event producers, agencies put in. Sometimes, yes, they, click a thing on Google and, they get a picture and they're like, oh, recreate this. It's like, okay, cool. But there are others who actually go out of their way to actually come up with really cool concepts. And for us, it's about bringing that concept and the reality to life, and the cool thing with us is because we've got the, Woohah Creative now, which is a content side. We've got the coders with the development side and a technical army of amazing people. We can actually bring cool stuff into life that requires all those elements. And that's where I want to move into rather than just saying, cool, we can give you, 17 speakers.
So is that what's next for Woohah, you and Woohah?
That's where I want to take the business to. Be unique in terms of being able to offer something that's so unique that, it's not we're not just another AV company. That's where we want to go to.
And where do you see yourself in the future, in whether it's in Woohah or in your own personal life? But what's the overall vision for Arosh?
It's a very good question. Also, sorry to butt in, but we talked about you've been in business for 21 years. You're still a young man.
Yeah.
So that question that Brad just asked has so much
Small
relevance.
in stature, big in presence.
What I lack in height, I make up with my personality. Look, I'm 37 years old. I still have the burning desire that I had when I was 16. I love to create.
Wow.
Right?
You still got the ruler? Is that still?
Still sells it.
My Simpson holographic ruler is retired. Look, we're growing. We've grown 300% in the last 18 months, which is crazy. I'm actually trying to pull the reins back a bit because we have to get the systems and the processes right. Right? It's not just about the money side of it. I always say if you do a good product or a good service, people will come to you, and money is really the byproduct of all that. For me, it's about, we don't even have a long vision as such, because I always think that, having a 10-year goal, it's like, well, unless it's crazy big, for me, it's about seeing where the world's going, see where we want to go and how we can be different. Because when you become different, that's when you can really kind of have a market share and be able to innovate and think. And that's where I get, still excites me.
And do you look at your team and your staff to help with that drive, to help elevate your brand with this vision of yours that you have? Do you look at them to really be a part of that?
Oh, absolutely. And that's why what I mentioned before about being able to, tell about your vision and get them to buy in is so important, right? And I think going back to the event producers and agencies and other people who are part of this ecosystem, like, whether that be a business or even down to an event, sell your vision. What do you want the end product to look like? How do you see it? What's the feeling that, the guest who's seated at that chair in row 15, what are they going to experience? Right? And if we can sell that and get everyone just to buy in rather than, I know when we go to a hotel these days, it's almost kind of like, oh, yep, you're the lunch show today, tick. Yep, I've been here for 18 hours. I want to go home. I'm just too tired. There's no passion, right? We just got to give a little bit more passion, because we are doing, and the industry that we're in is because we are so passionate about it.
I love that. And for any event or budding event producer listening to this, what you just referred to, Arosh, around what is that person in that seat there experiencing, sometimes gets lost.
Totally.
And that is amazing inside.
You've got to put yourself in the audience seat and in the audience shoes. And I've always gone back to, no matter who you are or what level you're involved in, if you can put yourself in the audience shoes and think about the event from their level, and every one of them is different, then create your event that way. Don't look at it from your own vision. Go back the opposite way. Put yourself in their shoes first. Think about their experience from start to finish, and then craft accordingly.
And that's why time is so important, because by just trying to rush and do things on the quick because someone because they have to, or
Because
someone
you've got 10 live auction items or whatever. Yeah.
correct. So think about it, in that pre-production stage, or a month leading up to it. Think about all those little elements that's going to create that experience.
You talk about passion, which I think is a really important piece, because there's a lot in this industry. Mental health a big thing, burnout's a big thing.
Yeah.
We've obviously gone through a pretty rough period in the past, from shutdown, a lot of people losing jobs and incomes and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
How do you see us rebuilding passion and crafting passion back into the way we go about our work?
Were you going to say
No,
something,
I
Shane?
was just more impressed with that question. That's awesome.
I was like, wow. I guess passion needs to come from the inside. I run the business based on a gut feeling, and the moment where I've got an absolute grin that is going up to my eyeballs, where I'm just like, wow, can't believe that little sketch that I saw 3 months ago is what I'm looking at right now. It's about, I think, also inspiring yourself, right? I think we sometimes forget to fill our own cups, because we are, again, go go go. So going to, I love to travel these days, and for me that gives me inspiration what others are doing, much bigger scale, population, everything like that. Like, it's funny, when a concert comes here, they just don't understand why it's quarter of the size of what they did in the US. And I'm like, there are 25 million people in the whole country. And I'm like, that's what you have in one state, or one city in some countries, right? So, but it gives you inspiration, right? And that then drives the passion. The fire starts burning again. And when the fire's burning, that's, I think, when the cool ideas come. The collaboration becomes even better.
Do you do much in sport?
We are starting to do a bit more in that space. We are about to go into, we're big in the esports world.
Right.
We had a client.
Of course.
We had a client, Microsoft Xbox, that we worked through an agency with in 2008. And ever since then, we've kind of been able to work in that space and really innovate. I've seen esports go from a school hall with 4 60-inch TVs. We are just about to do 3 stadiums at Melbourne Park.
That's huge.
Back-to-back stages and different gaming publishers on each stage. It is cool. It is unreal. And again, what we do in Australia is minuscule to what happens in Europe or out of China with these games. They get 500,000 people tuning in.
Wow.
The kids win something like $20 million or $1 million in prize money. It is another level. So it gives us inspiration, right? So for us, so we do a bit of stuff in sports, and that's probably our main market that we play in.
So cool. Love talking about the future and stuff.
And you mentioned, that you love to travel. Are some of the inspirations around traveling going to an event that maybe you are part of in Australia, but you want to see it in Europe or in the States or Asia, so you can see that, that variance of, holy shit, it's 10 times the amount of people or different processes? Is that something that you take on?
Absolutely. Absolutely. For me, I try to put work and travel together so I can witness.
Claim it on tax.
Am I allowed to say that?
It's okay.
It's all for work. It's all for work, everybody. That's the inspiration. It's about getting to see how others do it. Just remember, we have an idea in our head, and until I call it the blind spot, right? We all have a blind spot. So until we see it or someone points it out, we don't know it, right? So sometimes when you do travel, when you go to see, even seeing other people's shows, right? Like going to theater or, just being able to go into somebody else's show, you're like, wow, that's different.
Didn't think about it that way.
Correct.
Yep.
It's picking the blind spot.
And one of the reasons I ask that is because in the events world, I think it's so important. I do it. When I go anywhere, I want to see how other events are managed, produced, processes. The nerd in me comes out with looking at the egress and all these little elements. But I think it's so important for people in our industry to explore that, not just to have fun. I mean, you want to have fun and enjoy your travel, but, pick up little Tips along the way.
Little tips along the way. And that's what, I always say, it's the 1 or 2 percenters that change, right?
Yeah, that's great. You don't have to go into a whole event and go, I need to change my events to be exactly like this or so forth. And I know I said to you the other week, Arosh, like, I go to a theatre show now and I'm only allowed 10 minutes to analyse the thing.
Yes.
So, but it's like, it's 10 minutes to sit there and kind of pick it apart and pick 1 or 2 things and have a look at it. And you just bank them over time and over time and over time. And then something will come up and a brief will come up and you go, oh, I remember I saw something, or they did this the other day when I saw that, and then you can actually apply it. And
it's like going to a concert, right? You see a little element of a little setup and you're like, wow, that was cool. I could totally use that in a corporate event.
Yep.
Because that's what the client just briefed.
I strongly recommend you go see, if you haven't already, Tame Impala.
Yes.
You, as a tech nerd, would love it. It is, they're an amazing band as well, but you would love that show.
Music has come such a long way, and we've seen, in the last, I guess I've seen, especially in the last 15 years, concert touring has just gone from, something cool to do to it has now become such a big part of what an artist, they actually earn more money concert touring than what they do in selling music now.
Oh, that's a no-brainer, I think, now. Yeah, with the way
it's
that...
live experience,
that's what I mean.
it comes back to that experience economy and what people are trying to they can sit around and you can put your radio on or your Spotify on in your car and whatever and listen to your tune. But if I can go to a gig with my mate and we can, yell and scream and cheer and high five and hug and whatever and see that and breathe it and live and breathe that performance and that environment, it's such a different experience and a better experience to have.
That's what we are finding that people are wanting, experiences. Yeah. Especially in the last 18 months coming out of COVID, was people are just dying for experiences. And we've seen a lot of the events that we've done around that. So, if you were to map out to say, okay, cool, where was the biggest growth? It was, yes, you can say concert touring, but really it was people going
attending,
out to have experiences.
We're getting huge numbers. I mean, we talk about Melbourne, of course, we're here, but the attendee numbers are huge through the roof. And I imagine that's Australia-wide, really.
Oh, it is. It's everywhere. Everything is selling out faster than you can blink, right? People are wanting to go out. So you look at, like, even in March, the amount of concerts that were on with Ed Sheeran doing record numbers, right? But it was so cool to see, and people were like, this is amazing. And, anyone who didn't go was like, oh my gosh, I have FOMO.
Righto. Look, we could talk about this all day because we all love it and it's great to see the passion. But talking about passionate, mate, we love to finish this off with Buzz's rapid fire questions.
Oh, here we go.
So stand by, buckle in, and hit him up, Buzz.
All right, let's do this. You ready?
Done.
Okay, quick, rapid.
Yeah.
Favorite event that you've attended?
Beyonce concert.
Nice. Yes. Okay. What's the one thing that gets you motivated and moving when you're having a bad day?
Flipping my head around and being positive.
Flipping your head around. Hang on. What does that mean?
You have 2 choices in life, right? You can be down and out,
Yep.
or you can be positive, right? So if you keep worrying about it, it's going to stress the shit out of you. Or you can flip it, right, and use the positives to keep moving.
I like it. It's good. What's your best and worst trait or habit?
I am not a details person. Worst trait ever. Best trait, I'm a big visionary.
Yeah.
Love to think of crazy shit and bring to life.
That's a phenomenal answer. What scares you?
In life.
Oh, what scares me? That I'm not...
Breaking down 2 hours out of Sydney.
Yeah.
Every day when I get a phone call. What scares me? That I'm probably not doing enough, that there's always more to do. And I've just learned as I'm getting older that that's not the case.
Okay, I love this question. You have 3 people coming to your place. Who are they and what music are you putting on?
Oh, 3 people. I would love to have, probably have, that's a hard one, Shane. Come on. Who am I going to have? I'm going to have Ed Sheeran, right? I'm going to have someone inspirational. Who will it be? Let's go with, I love to listen to a guy called Ben Crow, who's a mindset coach for Ash Barty. Love listening to him. If anyone's out there wanting a bit of mindset, positivity, listen to Ben Crow. And who's the third person? The third person's going to be someone crazy, someone wild and crazy. I can't think of anyone now. But those are the
Third one's always the hardest.
I know,
isn't it?
people struggle. And
Yep.
okay, you got Ed in the rooms, but what music are you playing?
Just give him a guitar. Let him go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
No,
Yep.
he's a guest. He's not there.
No,
to
he's
perform.
a guest. He's a guest. It's all about the experience, right? And sometimes people go, if you're a chef, you just want to love to cook, but sometimes the chef actually likes to just sit,
Go in.
relax, and do nothing
Yep.
and eat somebody else's food. So, what am I going to play? I'm going to play something upbeat, cheery, almost cheesy,
Yeah.
because that's
Like
what life
like
is
an
all about.
80s Spotify playlist.
Yeah.
Is that what you're going
Like a
with there?
Whitney Houston,
There
I
you
want to
go.
dance with somebody, because you're like, what the hell are we doing here? Why are we here?
Oh, good stuff. No, thanks for that. That's great.
Last one. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So much. All right. Money will come and go. Don't make it the center of your life.
I like it. That's deep too. I'm getting little
Really
shivers here listening to it.
So-
Hang on, I'm writing it down. No, that's good.
It's been a big philosophical, because for me, life has been a huge roller coaster. We didn't have much. I was an immigrant kid who came to Australia when I was 9 years old from Sri Lanka. My dad passed away, and it was really about, we had nothing. So for me, the early stage and the early startup of the business was all about you mentioned the word hustle earlier. It was survival, right?
Wow.
It was really survival. Then I've seen this business grow. COVID happened, realized that it could be gone tomorrow, right? So if we make that the center, you lose the purpose and the passion that you have in life. So yeah, sorry, getting real deep.
No,
No, it's
I
great.
love it. And
No.
I can see why you do. You mentioned that you do public speaking quite a lot. I can see it.
I
Again,
love to
mean,
inspire people, and I love to take people. I talked about that positivity, and because we sometimes get in a bit of a rut, and people call me the Duracell bunny because they say I never die. But it's about a choice that I'm constantly making to be positive, to be happy, to put a smile. Because if I'm smiling, you're going to smile, because you're like, oh, that crazy guy's smiling at me, and that's going to make an impact. Such a small impact, but it's going to make your day that little bit better.
I love it.
Yep.
Geez, I could go on all night, as I've said a few times. But, mate, thank you very, very much for
You're
joining us.
very
Your advice, your passion, your innovation, and everything that you've shared with us has certainly been an insight. And I know we've all learned something, or Buzz and I in particular, and hopefully everyone who's listening has as well. But thank you very, very much again for sharing so much with us. And we wish you all the best in the future, and everything that you've got in front of you. I'm sure it'll be a huge success.
Yeah, thanks, Arosh. And before you go, I bought a new mixer yesterday, so you got to show me how to use that thing, all right? So before you go,
I'll show it to you. Boys, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure sharing the little journey of mine and where we're going. So thank you.
No worries. You're a huge inspiration. Congrats again, and look forward to chatting further.
Thank you so much.
cheers.
Thanks for listening to An Eventful Life. And if you like what you hear, don't forget to subscribe to listen to more episodes. I'm Brad.
And I'm Shane, and this podcast is produced by EOS Creative.
See you next time on An Eventful Life.